I thought I'd go ahead and finish my story about how I happened to get an order of protection and a no contact order by Judge Philip Robinson in Third Circuit Court of Davidson County. Um, I'm going to put a link to the first part, and this one shouldn't be as long. I'm having my fibromyalgia flared up today, and I really don't feel well, and so I'm probably not going to be as talkative as usual. But so where I left off is I just found out that my daughter's dad had signed her up for was planning on signing her up for summer camp all summer, and we've got joint custody, joint legal custody, joint decision making, and I'd been primary residential parent her whole life. Yet he's just decided I don't need to be her mom anymore. And I didn't want to go to court. I mean, we're already in court, but we were supposed to go like 3 months without having to go to court. And I wanted to enjoy that summer with my daughter, the time with my daughter, because, parents have right of first refusal. And when the law says that a parent has the right to time, if the child's not with a parent, one parent, the other right has the other parent has the right to have the care of the child during that time. Third parties do not get priority over parents. It's wrong, but that's exactly what he wants, because he's trying to, I'm available 24 hours a day, and he's just wants me out of her life, and I guess so. I could be out of his life, and I don't want to be in his life, but I want him in my daughter's life, and I want to be in my daughter's life. So I don't like him anymore, and he likes me. I don't like him, but I want us to both allow the other parent to give the best of what they can to her, because she needs that, and that's what she got for the first 5.5 years of her life. So anyway, so he says he's signing her up for, out of 10 weeks of summer vacation, he's only going to let me have a week and 3 days. He's going to sign her up for camp all the rest of the time. And I wasn't really expecting that. And I yelled at him, and I said, you can't do that. We've got joint legal custody, and you can't just go sign her up for stuff behind my back, because even if I had the right to go, like if he put her in a camp and I went and I got her, I could have, that's time I could spend with her, and I had the right to do that, even if he paid $200 a week for her to be in some program. And I really think Dilara would have rather been with me anyway, because the stuff that we could have done would have been more, just as good or better. And it's better because she's with me, because she gets to be with a parent. So, but it just would have been awkward. So, I wasn't really prepared for that, and I yelled at him, and he's got me on the phone yelling, and I thought that was a good thing, because, and this was on my other recordings. If you listen to the other one, you don't have to listen to this one, but or I don't need to repeat this, but I'm repeating it anyway. So, yeah, and I wanted him to record it, because I wanted there to be record. It wasn't just me saying, well, he didn't get my permission to sign her up for. He didn't even really discuss it with me, because when I tried to discuss it, and I sent him an email. I did want her to be in camp. I definitely wanted her to be in a week of soccer camp, and I thought she might enjoy something else. But I was thinking that they'd be like part of the day, and not like a full day. So I was still expecting to see her a lot, because he stopped me from homeschooling to distance me from my daughter, to alienate, just minimize our contact. And some people say, well, most kids go to school, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what most people do. If there's a parent willing and able to homeschool their child, especially in Tennessee, the law says that they have the right to do it. And his only reason his main reason for not wanting me to homeschool is because he wants me to not be in Dilara's life. That's it. And he was trying to wean me away from her. I think that whole year, school year, when she was in kindergarten, looking back, I could see that it was a ploy. It was like the first phase of cutting me totally out of her life, and it only took him a year. So he puts her in regular school, and then he says, "I'm not gonna let you have her during all this time she's out of school. I'm gonna put her in all these camps to keep her away from you." And then when I yell at him for that, he gets it a recording, and I thought it was good for him to have a recording because I could say, "See, this is he's not making joint decisions. He's making unilateral decisions. He's interfering in my relationship with my daughter." And I thought that would help me trying to maintain the custody we had for the first 5.5 years of her life, where he had up to 180 days of parenting time, which he didn't exercise. He exercised like 150 because we had a real good schedule worked out. And that's almost a 50-50 split. You can't get more, much more balanced than that. And plus, I don't even know what I was going to say. Like I said, my fibromyalgia is affecting me. Yeah, I asked him, I said, "Were you recording this?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Good, because I want the judge to hear that." But then when we played it in court for the order of protection, it was they had already set the judge up to be unfairly prejudiced against me because they lied to him, and I've got that recording of that order of protection hearing, and I'm waiting to put it online because I'm kind of, if anybody wants to see it, I could share them with them. I don't want to put it on social media because his name is on there, and I'm not supposed to put his name on anything. And but at some point, I'm going to put it on there unless he gives me my daughter back and gives me a reason to, if he gives me my daughter back and tells everybody he lied in court, so that people won't, people look at me like, because I think some people who don't know me think I must have done something to deserve to not get to see my child for a year. But it's just so much lies. And on that order of protection hearing, I didn't have the opportunity to defend myself effectively because we were rushed, and the judge had already, like I said, they told so many lies at the beginning. And the judge cut me off when I tried to explain because it was not fair at all. It was really not fair. But yeah, I need. They're telling all these lies about me. I want the truth out there because I just do. And if he hadn't lied, and if he hadn't done all this stuff, I wouldn't have. He complains about me telling anybody anything, but if he created this situation where I'm in a defensive position, and it's just been bad. And he's, I think he's lucky that I'm as nice as I am to him, because if he would just stop, I would just put all our personal stuff behind, and just put it behind, and try to just, I would forgive him and just move on. But I think he's going to give me trouble the next 11 years. But okay, let me get to my story. Where's my story? Okay, so I said I was mad, and then because he was taking her for his parenting time, and then I was leaving. I remembered he didn't give me the child support check, and so I called him, and he said I asked him if he had it, and when he said he didn't, I felt like that. And he was lying. He told the judge. He told me he didn't have it, but he told the judge, and you don't know if he's lying to the judge or not because he lies all the time. He swears to tell the truth, and then he lies. He's done that numerous times. I've got it in writing. I've got it on video. He lies. And he lies to make me look bad. And then when I show the proof that he's lying, the judges don't care because I don't have a lawyer. And he does. And so I said, well, I'll come by your house. Because I wasn't really done with, and it was pouring down rain. That's, I would have gotten out and talked to him. But I was really too mad and I needed to calm down. I needed to process what was going on and then try to talk, try to reason with him. And so he said he didn't have the check. And I says, well, I need it. I'll come by your house and get it later. And he said he'll put it in the mail. And I said, well, I'm going to come by your house. I'm going to, because I knew he wasn't going to go straight home. He was going to go out, take Dilara out to eat or maybe Chick-fil-A or something. And I could, in that intervening time period, I thought we would both have because I didn't know at that point that he'd had all this set up. I thought I could reason with him and we could compromise and but that's what I wanted to do, because I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna have to go to court and make you follow the court order because you're in contempt of court. And he was like, well, go ahead. And I didn't want to. I hate court. And I've been asking from the very beginning, to ask the judge, please tell him to not lie to the court, not lie about me, and make him stop interfering in my relationship with my child. He's not supposed to be doing that. That's supposed to count against him. And he's been doing it. All of this is about that. And the judges, so far, they're doing anything that just about. The things that they let me have ended up not mattering anyway. But, so I had to make his last effort. I went into more detail in the other video. So I go to his house, and I know they're, and I try to call him. That's in the other video. And so I'm sitting in his house, and then they finally came. It was a long time, and I was sitting there waiting. And if he had just called me and said, yeah, I got your message, but no, I don't want to talk. I just want to go ahead and take me to court, and I'm not going to talk to you. I don't care if you apologize. I don't care if you want to show Dilara how people work together and compromise and consider each other's feelings. I'm not gonna work with you. So if he just told me, yes, I read your apology, I read your proposition, and the answer's no, I would have gone home. I did not want to sit there in a car on the street in front of his house waiting for him to come home so I could have a face-to-face talk with him. So what happened was, he did take Dilara out to eat, and then I think they went to Books A Million or Playground or somewhere, and he called the police, and he's like, well, my daughter's mother's at my house. I think she's at my house, and she's going to confront me about the child support check. And it really wasn't about the child support check. It was about our parenting relationship and cooperating and Dilara getting to have the time with me that she's entitled to, and that she's been waiting all school year to spend more time with her mom. So, for me, it was about, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Nothing. And, but he's taken everything from me. I haven't seen Dilara in almost 7 months. Period. No contact at all. So, so he calls. I didn't know about this till later. But here, I'll just give you my perspective. So he finally comes in, and I've been waiting there so long. And of course, I said on the other video, I'd called him a couple of times, but Dilara answered. I called him a bunch of times, but they only answered twice. So I didn't know if they had left the phone in the car or if they were deliberately ignoring me. But she told me he doesn't want to talk to you, and I said, well, that's okay. you know, where are you and stuff. And he wouldn't let her talk, apparently. So, so they pulled into the garage, and I'm sitting on the road in front of his house, and there's lots of cars on the road in front of his house, and it's dark, and it wasn't raining at that point. So he pulls in, and I'm okay, well, let me give him a few minutes because I know how it is to get kids out of the car and get settled and everything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give him a chance to get out of the car, get in the house, kind of get settled down. So I gave him a few minutes, and then I went to the door and I knocked. And before I did that, I checked my email, I checked my text, he didn't call me. Never once did he call me, send me a text, send me an email. Because I was thinking maybe he didn't read my email, maybe he didn't get my text. I thought that would really be a stretch that he didn't get them, but sometimes I haven't gotten texts till hours later. We were a few years ago, we were at the downtown Nashville for fireworks, and nobody could send text to the other person. It's like they sent them, and it's like they didn't get them in a timely manner. So things happen, and I try to think good about people. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I try to treat people like I would want to be treated, and that's all. That night, everything I was doing, I was not confrontational. I was just in a very, very good attitude, positive, cooperative, you know, just a good, really good attitude, which was not like what I would yell at him that was very short. I don't usually yell at him, but I was, and I didn't cuss him or threaten him or anything. I was just complaining, you know, complaining loudly. And, so I knocked on the door, didn't answer. And I waited, rang the door. Does he even have a door? I don't even know if he has a doorbell. Maybe he doesn't. But anyway, I was at his front door. And then I couldn't hear anything. So I didn't like stick my ear to the door, but I, you know, sometimes I do hear stuff, you know, when I've been over there and I could hear, you know, when they're coming and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe they're in the back bedroom. Maybe they're in the back of the house, and that's why I can't hear any talking or anything. And maybe they can't hear me knocking on the door. I don't think he does have a doorbell. I think I was knocking. And so I was, you know, I knocked and waited. Didn't hear anything. Knocked and waited. And then I checked my phone again. No text, no phone call, nothing, no email. I checked everything. And then I thought, well, before I leave, I'll make one last effort in case they're at the back of the house. So I went around to the back of the house. And before I did, I thought about it. And I thought, okay, if I go and knock on the back of the back door, even if it startles them, they'll say, "Oh, that must be Lydia. She said she was going to come over." So I did not see there was anything wrong with that. And if it had been, you know, I say this like, an example is like if I told a friend, well, you know, I brought you a casserole when you were sick, and I'll come pick up my dish now. And if they didn't answer the front door, I didn't want to have to go home or anything. And if they didn't, you know, I would, if I knew they were there, I might go to say, "Well, I'm here." You knock on the door. I didn't see anything wrong with that. If somebody had done that to me, it would have bothered me. So I certainly didn't think that was a stalking or harassing thing to do. So I think it was a legitimate purpose, and it was constitutionally protected. And you know, I was just trying to communicate with him. He never asked me to leave. He never asked me to leave. I never saw him, never talked to him. So I went to the back door. Didn't hear anything at the back door either. I don't know. I thought, well, maybe they're in his master bathroom brushing their teeth or something, and the water's running, and So, but I was going to go home. I was tired. I had other things I needed to do. And I felt like, my conscience was going to be clear. Because I'd done everything I could to go to the person and try to resolve the situation. And so I was going home. But I knocked on the back door. And then as I was walking back around the house, because I only went on one side, knocked on the back door, and then his master bedroom's on the back of the house. And as I went back there, I just kind of absent-mindedly tapped my knuckle. I don't know why I did that. I didn't think they were going to hear me. If they couldn't hear me, I just did that. I wasn't like pounding on his windows. I just, as I went by, I just kind of, just tapped the wall as I walked, or the windows as I walked by. And I was walking to my car, and then I came back, and his master bedroom's at the very back of the house, and then directly in the front of it is the garage. So I was walking around the garage, and then I heard Dilara screaming, and it was like, I guess you say, "Mom!" And I'm like, "Was that Dilara?" And then I hear her crying, really just wailing, and I never felt this way before, but I absolutely panicked in my heart. I have never thought he would do anything to hurt her physically. And he'd been making all these crazy accusations against me, and about how I beat her because I'm mad at him for him taking me to court, and I get mad at him, so I beat Dilara. Total lie, absolute lie. And I'd never beat my kids because I'm mad at somebody else. And then he said he was afraid I was going to beat her if he took Dilara to play date with this woman and her son. He said, well, I was afraid she was going to, if I did that, that I would get mad and beat Dilara. He said that in court under oath. Of course, I can't prove he didn't think that, but he didn't have any reason to think that. That's just bizarre. So, but I heard Dilara screaming, and she doesn't, how old was she then? She's 6.5. And she doesn't cry a lot. When she was younger, she did, and have temper tantrums and stuff. And this wasn't a mad cry, because I think your kids, and if they're just kind of whiny because they're tired or don't feel good, and when they're mad, and but when they're scared. And she is just it was very distressful cry. I panicked, and I beat on I'm like, Dilara, are you okay? And I knocked on the he's got a metal garage door, because it sounded like she was right on the other side of the door. And I beat on the door. I'm like, Dilara, what's he doing to you? And I don't know the last time in my life I have ever been just so frantic that I don't think there is ever been a time where I thought somebody was hurting my child, and I couldn't get to her, and I couldn't help her, and she's screaming in there. And I called the police. I said, I'm calling the police. And I dialed the police. And then I went back to the front door while I was talking to the police. And I think I knocked on the front door again. And after when they said they were on their way, and I went and sat in the car till they got there. And they got there pretty quick. And so I sit in the car, and I was looking. I couldn't really see everything, because I was kind of like at the bottom of a hill, but I could see them open the door. 3 police officers came, and when they got there, they came by and they talked to me first. And he said, are you the one that called to check on your daughter? And I said, yes. And he said, well, he called first because he wants you to leave. And I said, well, why didn't he just ask me to leave? I would have left if he'd asked me. I didn't even know he knew I was out here, because there's a bunch of cars on the road, and if he was, not paying attention, he might not have even seen my car sitting there. So I didn't know. I didn't want to make assumptions about anything. But, he should have just asked me to leave. And he did ask me to not come. But like I said, I thought over the space of a couple hours, especially after my apology and showing him, and I was sorry I yelled at him. Sorry I yelled. I read my email and text on that other video, the actual ones that I sent him. So the police go up there, and he's got, Dilara's dad has, he's got the entryway, and then he's got steps that go up to the bonus room, and I could see the police standing at the bottom of the steps looking up. So I thought Dilara must be sitting on the steps, and he was talking to her. And I couldn't really hear anything, but I saw her, her dad open the door and let the police in, and then they came out and talked to me, and they said, she's okay, you can go. And I said, are you sure she's okay? And he said, yeah, I'm sure. And I said, well, why was she screaming? And he said, well, I don't know, I guess she was just stressed out, but it was okay. I felt okay going home at that point, because I'm like, oh, well, if you're sure she's okay, and she's calmed down, and she's not hurt. And he said she's fine. So when she said he went and talked to her for 2 or 3 minutes, came out, told me she was okay, and I felt like, I didn't have any problem leaving at that point. I didn't have any problem leaving, but I still, that was a very stressful experience, and I wondered what she was screaming about, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to talk to her. I would just wait till, I saw her again, and I would ask her what happened. So I went home, and the next day I filed I'm not good at writing these motions and things, and I wrote a motion for contempt, and after I wrote it, his lawyer says, well, she's going to dismiss this. This isn't how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to file a petition, and you're supposed to pay this money, and you're not doing it right. And I'm like, well, that's the best I can do. And I didn't want him to go to jail. I didn't want him to go to jail. I didn't want him to really get in trouble. I don't want to cause him any. I have never wanted to hurt, his situation. I want him to just stop hurting me, and stop hurting my daughter. And I want him to do what he's supposed to do. And he was already under a court order to make decisions jointly. He was already under a court order to let me have the time with her when she wasn't in school. That was in the court order. So he wasn't following the court order, and all I wanted was for him to be, forced to comply with it. And all they have to do, nobody's told him no. All this stuff he's doing to me, they won't tell him no about anything. They're like, I almost wonder if they said, well, have her sign over the deed to her house. Or, I don't have anything he wants. My daughter's all he wanted. But it's like, if he said, can I take her back behind the building and give her 40 lashes with a bullwhip? They'd probably say, sure, why not? That sounds fine. You've got a lawyer. She doesn't. So we don't have to treat her like an American citizen. That's basically what has been happening in juvenile court, Davidson County. I'm totally disenfranchised. I have nothing. They treat me not even. They would treat an illegal immigrant better than they've treated me, I think, unless it was, if it was the same situation where there's somebody that doesn't have a lawyer against somebody that does have a lawyer. I think this is just typical treatment. I've heard too many stories. And even when you got 2 lawyers, sometimes there's favoritism or whatever, but court's just a snake pit. I hope my kids never have to get dragged into court. So anyway, I went home, and the next day I wrote up this petition, and I asked her to clarify this parenting schedule, because we didn't have, a detailed parenting plan. We just, we did our parenting plan. We just left it kind of open. Well, you get this many days. We're trying to keep it fair, but we didn't have, well, who gets this holiday, and who gets this holiday, and who gets summer, and basically I'm supposed to, anytime she's not with him, she needs to be with me. That's it. So I asked her to clarify this, and it took me all day to do it, and I filed them. I took the copy to his lawyer, And I think that's the day. And I was kind of confused because I thought I had enough copies for everybody. And when I got there and gave her hers, I'm like, well, where? I thought I had another copy of this. And then I was thinking, well, maybe I gave somebody 2 copies of the same thing, because I had like a motion to clarify the parenting schedule and a motion for contempt about him interfering with my parenting time and being, not following court orders. So I got that done, and then the next day I went to Kentucky, and my aunt had surgery on her foot, and maybe that night I went up there. And then the next day I get a call from the sheriff's department, and they tell me that Dilara's dad got an ex parte order of protection against me, and I don't remember. I just thought it was crazy, but I didn't really panic about it. But I thought it was crazy because he didn't need protection from me, and they asked for protection for Dilara. She certainly doesn't need protection from me, but it was ex parte, and he wrote in there that the commissioner wrote in there that no contact other than to have to do with just the parenting stuff, which is the only contact I have with him anyway. I mean, I would never speak to that. I would never see that man, talk to him, send him a Christmas card. I just want him out of my... He's poison. He is... To me, he's poison. And I'm poison to him. We make each other sick. I mean, he makes me physically sick. I don't know if I make him physically sick or not, but he hates me with a passion. And it makes me uncomfortable to have to deal with people who hate me with a passion. And I've got too many people in my life who love me, and I want to be with the people who love me and build me up and are, positive. I don't, but he's Dilara's dad, so, I try to deal with him, and best as I can for Dilara's sake. Put my feelings aside, and let's try to act like mature grown-ups in this. We can't, as long as we have her, we can't. We have to deal with each other in some way. So, and that's one reason we're in court, is we have joint. I want him to have basically 50-50 parenting time. I want him to have up to his 180 days. I want him to have all the time with her that he can give her. And I just want my 185 days. And okay. So, and then when I came back to town, I guess I came on that Friday. I don't know when I came back to Nashville. And I went to, I wanted to get to see if there was the police incident report. I didn't stay at that May 31st at his house. When the police came, I said, well, are you going to do an incident report? And he says, yeah. And I wish I'd said, well, I want to give my version, but I had talked to him. So, and, but I wished I could have stayed there and read what they were writing up before it got filed. Because, he had Dilara's dad had his version and I had my version. And they kind of got some facts mixed up anyway. But on the police report, it said that they didn't arrest anybody because they couldn't tell. The stories did not line up, and they didn't really know what was going on, and nobody was hurt. So, they just made the report, and so I was going to go to the place where you can get a copy of the incident report, and so I went and I asked for it, and I sat there and waited and waited and waited, and then these 2 security guards came to me, and they said, "Well, you need to come with me," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and it was strange. So we go out of the building, we go around, and they take me down underneath, because I think this is in the building where the jail and, well, not the main jail, but the jail where, there's a jail downtown where in the police department. So it was on there. So they take me down there, and they're like, well, this is where, warrants are issued. And I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, I just came here for a copy of this incident report from May 31st, do you have it or not? And so they take me this counter, and then they give me this warrant, and it's like, this warrant for your arrest. And I'm like, what? Arrest for what? And it's like, assault, fear of bodily injury. And I'm like, why would anybody be scared of me injuring them? But I don't have he did an affidavit about how scared he was of me that night. When I yelled at him, didn't threaten him, wasn't menacing. I just and I told him when I yelled at him, I said, I want the judge to hear what you're saying and how you want, to cut me out of her life. And I think, and maybe too at that point, he thought, oh, well, this is going to make me look bad. I've got to flip it around and make her look bad. So he said that, and then when I was at his house, this is an affidavit, and I knocked, this is a probable cause. I knocked on the door and said, Dilara, are you okay? And that put him in fear of imminent bodily injury. That's probable cause. You could walk down the street. You can go to Walmart, and probably somebody would say or do something and make you uncomfortable. And why should you be able to, and if it's something in his head, I don't think reasonable people would think that because I yell at you, I'm like, why did you do that? You hurt me. You're hurting my daughter. Stop it. Why would that put him in fear of me beating him up or something? And he took Taekwondo. He was one of these tournaments. He's very athletic. He plays soccer. He's like 8 inches taller than me. I'm not a threat to him. I was just, when I read that, that's probable cause. It's just pathetic. We don't have any protection here. It's crazy. Everything is so open to abuse. So if anybody wants to manipulate the system and give somebody a hard time and use the legal system to harass them and oppress them, they could. It's easy. There's so many loopholes. And so he said the police, back to my story. They're like, you can either sign this and agree to come to court on whatever day it was, or we can arrest you right now. And I'm still, and I've got ADHD too, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Could you explain that? And he got real snippy with me, and it's like, well, we'll just go ahead and arrest you. I'm like, I didn't say I'm not going to sign something. I just want to understand. Can you not explain it to me? And then this older guy came over and he explained it a little bit better. And I'm like, well, of course I don't want to get arrested right now. Who would want to be arrested right now? It was crazy. So I signed it and put my thumbprint on it and got a court date. And I guess if I'd gotten put in jail, I would have got bailed out. So I agreed to just come to court. It was a summons. So you can either accept the summons or you can get arrested on the spot. So, but that was just weird. And that was and then our I think my court date was a month or two away. But back to the order of protection. Our order of protection hearing, because the ex parte, you're supposed to have a hearing within like 14 or 15 days. So we had a hearing on June 15th. And went to court that day, and I'll have to get all my paperwork and stuff about that. But basically, they lied. They first, right off the bat, they say, Your Honor, we're here. They had to go from juvenile. The bottom line is, they didn't want to comply with the order at the juvenile court. So they circumvented that, went over their heads to the Third Circuit Court. And I understand this is order of protections get abused a lot of times. And I heard if you've got two really contentious parents, it's kind of a race to the courthouse to see who files for order of protection first, because they get such an advantage over the other parent. He and I were never married. We never lived together. And this is all about him cutting my daughter out of my life. And he did it. So they go in there and they start off saying, lying. Well, even in the affidavit for the order of protection, which I'll put it on Free Dilara Gadir, that group page, Free Dilara Gadir on Facebook. I just have to like black out names and scan it, and I'll put it on there so anybody can look at what the allegations were against me, and then I'll have to, put my version on it too. But so they said they were there because I was refusing to obey any orders of the lower court. Any orders, which is a lie. Because, and they kept asking for more things. They start off saying, we want the mother to lose the majority of her daytime parenting time, and by putting the child in school. Force a child to go to public school so we can get her away from her mom. And totally against the law, but the judge did it. So then it was the magistrate judge, Magistrate Scott Rosenberg, Juvenile Court, Davidson County, Tennessee. And then we got a rehearing. But after they got that initial success, then it's like, okay, what else can we take away from her? And then they started infringing in my with my free speech, with my interactions with my daughter. They started putting all these injunctions, they're like, oh, it's free. We don't believe it's in the best interest for you to talk to your daughter about this or that. And it's like when they didn't want me talking to her about court, and I told her, I can't talk to you about it. And she says, well, you have to talk to me about it. And I said, well, I can't. And she said, well, fine, I'll have to talk to my imaginary friend. And she thinks she had why did she need an imaginary friend? And what's her imaginary friend going to be telling her? I mean, that's just crazy. Why are parents and courts and all these strangers who don't even know my child, and who I've raised just fine without their help, until we go to court, they never proved any harm. And without proving harm to Dilara, a risk of substantial harm, it doesn't matter that they don't agree with things I do, or my attitudes, or anything what I do with Dilara. That's my business. That's my right as a parent to make those decisions. That's what the law says. And best interest doesn't kick in until they're showing that something I'm doing now is hurting her. And the only person hurting her is her dad by taking me to court and ripping her away from all these things that she needs to develop in a healthy way, which she was doing great before all this started. So, and now she's got to go to counseling, and she's afraid she's never going to see her mom again, and she's afraid her dad's put her mom in jail, and she's not getting, she's just had all the things taken away from her that she got from me. So, that's what's hurting her. That's what's not in her best interest. But it's just crazy. I had no idea. I had no idea things were so screwed up, and how easy it is to take children away from perfectly adequate parents, and how much money so many people benefit off of conflict. And they say, well, we would like for you to go to mediation or whatever. But it's just so screwed up. And if they're too overwhelmed, the case got too many people in court, if they would start punishing people for lying, like in my case, if they would just obey, if everybody who was wanting to go to court and taking somebody's rights away from them, this is what this is about. This is not about whatever's, what's best for Dilara. This is about injustice. It's about taking my rights away from me. And that's not good. It's not only not good for me, it's not good for him. It's not good for anybody. And then it's like you got all this huge network that people have a vested interest in encouraging conflict between parents. And it's because you don't, the Constitution, all these rules are supposed to be for everybody's benefit. And you've got to apply them to everyone. So if I've got the right to have a relationship with my daughter, and he's got a right to a relationship, you don't take my right away from me for just because he wants it. You know, it's like I said, you don't give him my house because he wants it. It's like rape. It's like legalized rape. It's like, okay, I want that woman. I'm going to have my way with her. And then the courts say, okay, fine. And it's really sick. And I really feel sorry for all the kids who, especially the babies, when they take babies away from their moms, and they don't have that primary attachment. I read a lot about the attachment theory, and from what I've seen, what I've known about kids and my background in childcare and taking care of my own kids and people I know and knowing about those primary attachments are important. And then you got the state they don't care. It's funny because they'll take a child away from a parent and they won't give them back to the parent because they'll say, oh, well, this child is established and doing well. We don't want to disrupt the child. And that's bizarre because if the child was doing well, and lots of these kids are doing well with their parents, that the state and the courts are taking away. But it's like they get money, and maybe not in these custody cases. In my custody cases, the judges and lawyers, they're all in the bar association or whatever, so they're all like buddies. You got this cronyism and stuff going on, and so I don't have an attorney, so I'm like nobody. But it's just a benefit to them because if you take a child away from one parent and give it to the parent who has the lawyer that you see at all these parties and events or whatever, then it's all these people taking care of each other. Nobody's taking care of the children. They pretend that they are, but they're not. I don't think anybody, and I've been saying this, I said nobody in this courtroom but me is concerned about about my child. Her dad's not, the judge is not, the CASA is not, guardian ad litem certainly isn't. Certainly not. None of those people really, really are interested in what's going on with my child and what she needs. And what really bothered me was one of the many things that bothered me is now I forgot which one I was going to say because there's so many of them jumping in my head at the same time. Oh yeah, we had like a custody trial over like 5 days, 2 days April, 2 days May, and then they didn't have another court date till August, and 2.5 months. CASA is supposed to, it's in their guidelines, whatever. They're supposed to meet with the child that the CASA volunteer is supposed to be advocating for. They're supposed to meet face to face every 30 days at least. Our CASA, 2.5 months, did not see Dilara. Did not get to, when she knew Dilara had been taken away from me, hadn't seen me, 2.5 months. She told the judge she called her dad. She called Dilara's dad, and he said she was doing fine. That was the depth of her involvement in advocating for Dilara. 2.5 months, when CASA says you're supposed to go at least every 30 days, and the judges. Why are the judges not making their own decisions? And why do you have to send eyes and ears out to? It's CASA is horrible. I don't, and I might only be saying that because in my case, there was no abuse, there was no neglect, there wasn't from the beginning. They shouldn't even have been involved. There were false allegations of neglect that the court, I told him they're coming. I said, he's already threatened me. And I was expecting the judge to say, don't harass her with DCS. And of course they didn't. They just said, well, if somebody thinks a child's being abused, we can't tell them to not report it. And there's just so many things that you say, oh, well, this person made me feel afraid. So you get that person, okay, with my assault, okay, so the order of protection, they started off saying I wasn't following any orders, which immediately unfairly biased the judge, because judges don't like it when you don't follow orders. And it wasn't true. And he had lied and said he had custody of Dilara, and I was in his affidavit, and I was always irate and looking for any excuse to yell at him, which is not true. And I was trying to get more time with the child than the courts would allow. That's not true. Lie after lie after lie after lie. Under oath. Affidavit, he's supposed to sign that under oath. And then his lawyer's lying. He's lying in the affidavit that for the petition to get the order of protection. His lawyer's lying. And then I go, he gives me a chance to make opening a statement, and I try to say, this man's been abusing me for years. This is all a ploy to give him an advantage in court to cut me out of Dilara's life. And the judge cut me off, and he actually cut the attorney off too, who's rushing her, because this was not supposed to be a great big evidentiary hearing. But she has to do that. She has to lie. She has to misrepresent things. She has to pull in all this distracting stuff to take the focus off what's really going on. She can't win this on facts and law. She can't do it. And she knew it from the beginning, and so they're doing all these dirty tricks, and so far they've prevailed. But I do have an appeal going on. So anyway, so that's basically the order of protection. As soon as she started talking, and he was rushing her, and I've got ADHD, and I knew he was already biased towards them before I even opened my mouth. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just have to deal with it. And so he said, because I knocked on his door. They were trying to say I was obsessed with him, and made it sound like I'm constantly beating on his door and knocking on, pounding on his windows, won't leave him alone, want this romantic, and he's been telling me for years that he thinks I'm trying to get him to marry me. And when he started saying that was just bizarre for him to say. I was trying to use Dilara to get close to him. And he said that after I had tried to distance myself from him. And, but then when my arrest, the domestic assault, we went to, we had this preliminary hearing, and I can't remember what I've said in what videos or who have told it, whatever, but at the preliminary hearing, I had a public defender, and she comes to me and she said, they don't really think you're guilty of talking about the DA of domestic or assault. They don't really think it meets the criteria for that, but they want to charge you with aggravated criminal trespassing. And when I went back and read the law about that, I'm like, well, this applies even less than the domestic assault, and I'm not guilty of any of this stuff. So when she said, they said they want you to, and you don't have to say it was a, what do they call it, some kind of diversion or something. It's kind of like a plea bargain. It's like, well, if we'll let you be on probation for a year, and you get to go to all these mental health counseling things to, and then you don't have to go to jail, and then it'll get expunged. And I'm like, and I said, do you think what I did, knowing I told you all about what happened, do you think I'm guilty under the statute of assault? And she said, no. And I said, I don't either, and I'm not gonna, no, that's not, that was the other thing. I said that afterwards. We're still on the trespassing. She said, they want you to do this. And I said, he never asked me to leave. And she said, well, he's saying he did ask you to leave. And I said, I pulled out the police report and everything he'd written down. And I said, if he asked me to leave, I want to know how and when he asked me to leave, because I don't have a text message from him, a voicemail. From the time he came home, he never asked me to leave. And he said he didn't see me. He didn't call me. He didn't text me. He didn't email me, ask me to leave. He did not answer the door. In his affidavit, he even said he did not answer and he did not make contact with me. So if he didn't make contact with me, how could he have asked me to leave? And if he didn't ask me to leave, how could he have me charged with, aggravated criminal trespassing or whatever? So the public defender goes back and talks to the DA. Then she comes back and she says, well, they decided to go ahead and charge you with domestic assault. And then that's when I asked her to, and I said, well, I want a jury trial. I am not guilty. I don't trust judges anymore. I do not trust judges. I want a jury trial. I'm not going to waive my right to a jury. And I want a jury. I want to tell them what happened and have them look at the law. And there should not be any way anybody could say that I'm guilty of assaulting him. Reasonable? It's because, is it reasonable for somebody to say, you're... Nothing I did would have made a reasonable person be in fear of bodily injury. And but he got to testify, and I'm like sitting there like this because I'm trying to not make eye contact with him. And I told the judge, I said, I told the defender, I said, I'm trying to not look at him because he's scared. He's saying he's scared of me, and I'm not supposed to make contact with him. And because I did have the order of protection, and so I'm like trying to not make eye contact with him. And he was like, he said that when I went over there to his house, he said I scared Dilara because she didn't know who that was, and I was beating on his door so hard he thought I was going to break his door down, and he said I'd pounded on all the windows, and all that is a lie. And that night, May 31st at his house, I got it. When I saw Dilara again, I asked her what happened. And I said, didn't you know that was me? And she says, of course I knew it was you. And I said, why were you screaming? And she said, because Dad, I was scared, and Dad was on the phone talking to the police and said there's a crazy lady at my house, and I said that's not a crazy woman, that's my mom. And then after I'd heard him lying about what happened that night, lying on his affidavit and lying on, because he said, well, he even specifically said that I scared Dilara, and that's why she started crying. I upset her because I scared her. I got a copy of the emergency call, and it was kind of hard to get it because you have to go through the DA office, and I said, I need this as evidence, otherwise it's going to be his word against mine. He's lying, and I've already suffered enough from the injustices it's just been piled on me over and over again, and I need whatever I need to see if there's something in there I could use. I can't remember exactly what I was looking for, but I found a lot more than what I was looking for. Because it turns out he called and said, he called like 7 times trying to get the police out there. And I think there were 2 calls from them calling him back or something. And then there's 1 call from me. The last call was from me, and that's when I was screaming. So he's basically calling and saying, well, I don't want to confront her. If he didn't want to confront me, he could have sent me a text. That's non-confrontational. That's all it would have taken, is just let me, or when he had gotten home, if he had said, I don't want to talk to you, that I would have gotten home. And but what he did was he said he sat on the recordings because he didn't want me confronting him. And he said, well, she's there. I saw her car parked in front of my house. And she won't the police have to come. The police need to escort me. She's going to confront me, and she won't leave. She will not leave unless the police make her leave. Which is not true. All he had to do is just ask me. And so he said he waited, like a block away for like an hour. And then he's mad at them. And then he starts getting really hateful with them. And he's like, well, I sat in the car for my child. Why can't you get somebody out here? And they're saying, well, we've really been slammed tonight, and we're understaffed, and we've got shootings and car wrecks and life-threatening injuries. And then he says, well, I've got a gun. And they're kind of talking over each other. But he's basically said, there's going to be a life-threatening injury here if you don't hurry up and get the police out here, because I've got a gun. That's the message he was conveying. And then the last call before my call, he said, she's here, she's at my door, and there's a crazy lady at my door, crazy woman, crazy lady. And then you hear Dilara. Dilara was already making upset noises. And this is before I beat on anything and yelled, or you asked Dilara if she's okay. But she was kind of she was upset. And he said, there's a crazy lady at my door. And she says, that's not a crazy woman, that's my mom. And she was, because when she told me, she was mad. But she was like, that's my mom. And she was afraid. She told me she was afraid he was going to put me in jail. And and then, so you hear her, and he says something like, okay, listen to me. I've got a gun. I'm going to shoot that woman. And then you hear Dilara crying again. And the lady, she says, I don't recommend making threats like that on recorded calls. What is she doing that makes you think you need to shoot her? And then you hear Dilara screaming, and the line goes dead. And I think you could. That might be that might be the call where you hear me. That's when I start. That's when I start beating on the garage, because I think that's what I heard when she said, "That's my mom," and she was like very emotional. I think that's what I heard. That's what caught my ear when I'm like, something's wrong with Dilara. And then that's when I started screaming. And then when I'm screaming, and I was so hysterical, I'm pounding on the garage door, and it was awful. But see, and that was the last call, because these calls are timed. So I've got the time of my email, the time of my text messages. All of these calls are timed. And I did, like I said, I did nothing wrong. I had no malicious intent whatsoever. I was not being aggressive. I was just trying to be a good parent. And I've got two older kids. I've got two teenagers. I've got an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old with my ex-husband. My ex-husband doesn't like me either, but we've worked together we've been divorced like 15 years, and we communicate and cooperate very well, and we've got our kids taken care of. And I used to think I used to think Dilara's dad was nicer than my ex-husband, but my ex-husband, and I got married when I was young, and I don't think my ex-husband's a bad person either, but he's just we just had conflict. But when we were married, we like I said, we had a good co-parenting. We still do have a good co-parenting relationship. But I was like, Dilara's dad has gotten to be so cruel and so hateful, not just to me, but to Dilara, that he makes my ex-husband look like Mr. Rogers. That's what popped into my head. And I'm like, I think Dilara just wishes, why can't people just respect each other, respect each other's rights? And what's happening with me is they're taking my rights away from me, and then they're taking more rights. And then when I complain about them taking away my constitutionally protected rights unlawfully, and then when I complain about it, they're like, well, don't complain about it. You can't complain about it. You can't say anything bad about Dilara's dad. You can't say anything. You can't complain about court. You can't complain about how you're being treated. You can't speak out. You can't express your thoughts and opinions, because if you do, we'll put you in jail. That's about all they could do to me, is put me in jail. And that's one thing when I went to the order of protection hearing, the judge would not let me, they tell you to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but they don't let you tell the whole truth. They only let you hear bits and pieces, and I keep saying that, it's like what happened to me in that order of protection. It's like, did you go to his house? Yes. Did you knock on his door? Yes. Were you sitting in front of his house for 2 hours? Yes. And they're like, well, you've got really bad judgment. And he said, I hope I'm sorry you have this problem. I hope you get help. He really, I think he really did think I was crazy, but he doesn't know me. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody does something, whether you would do it or not do it, or whether you think it's in good judgment or not. The judge needs to be measuring things by the law. And if I'm over at Dilara's dad's house because I've got a court order to make joint decisions, and I'm trying to make a joint decision, I'm trying to engage in productive discussion that leads to a jointly made decision. That I was following court orders, and then they go in there saying, well, she's not following orders, and it's a lie. And I am not following some orders now, because the last thing they said was, don't mention him. Oh, they asked the order protection judge to have me not say anything about him on Facebook or on the internet. And he said he was going to say for me to not mention him by name. And she's like, well, what we really want you to do is not let her mention him at all. Don't let her mention anything about him in any way, shape, or form. And because, don't let her say Dilara's dad, or she said my Turkish enemy. I'm like, would I ever call him my Turkish? He is a Turkish enemy. But she's like, we don't even want we don't want her discussing anything, mentioning anything in any way that anybody could read it and figure out she's talking about what Dilara's dad is doing to her and Dilara. And Judge Robinson did not do that. And I give him credit for that. I have accepted, don't mention him by name. I have not mentioned him by name. And when I did a video and I mentioned that I had to have it edited out because I accidentally mentioned his name. And then they put that as an allegation for me being in contempt of court, not because I mentioned his name on Facebook, but because I said that I accidentally mentioned his name, and I had to edit it out. So, and I never did put it on. It was on my computer. I did not put it on YouTube or on Facebook. So, and that's an example. They've got this is in juvenile court. They've got 26 charges of contempt against me, and they're asking for me to go to 10 days of jail for everyone. And a bunch of them are just stupid. Because I had, like, last year they made up eight things they're trying to say. Well, this is, she took her out. I can have four unexcused absences, and she doesn't have a lot of enrichment. And when my older kids were they were in the gifted and talented program, it was a half a day a week, every week. And now it's only like one class period once a week. So I was looking at ways to do more enrichment activities with her. So I pulled her out of school. I pulled her out of school a couple times and took her on field trips with homeschoolers, and just enrichment activities. And to kind of make up for the inadequacy of, they just don't have a lot of programs for, they're just not, I don't even know why they went from having a half a day once a week to only one class period. But anyway, so even though my children could have 4 unexcused absences, and it was my decision to say, okay, you're going to have an unexcused absence, and I'm going to take you to do this. And I talked to the school about it, but her dad's lawyer said she's in contempt of court because she's not encouraging, or she's under a court order to have it's interfering with her public school education, and she's in contempt of court because she was ordered for her child to have a public school education. And that's not it was ridiculous. But there were like eight things last year they filed, and they never did set it for trial till here lately. We have a court date on January 21st, and last month on December 28th, I got like this big package, and they added a whole bunch of allegations, and they all have to do with me talking on Facebook because. And I told the order protection judge, I said, they've already taken, I really don't have anything to lose. They have already taken, so much away from me. And he's like, well, if you get put in jail, you won't get to see her at all. And the judge did not understand, that order protection judge, he did not understand. I don't think he wanted to understand. I don't think they care. I don't think any of these judges care about the people they're supposed to be serving. And I don't know, are they supposed to be serving people? Well, they're supposed to be upholding the Constitution, but I've made this a lot longer than I meant to make. So anyway, so that's the story. That's the whole thing. And I've on my free Dilara Gadare in the files section, I've got some of the paperwork and stuff but I'm a good mom. I'm a Christian. I'm try to treat people like I want to be treated. I have no ill will toward that man. I'm frustrated with the way he's acting. But, it's like I think of what the order protection judge told me. He says, I'm sorry you have this problem. I hope you get some help. That's what he should have been saying to Dilara's dad. He should have been saying, I'm sorry you're so emotionally retarded that you can't function in a parenting relationship for the benefit of your child, and put your own feelings aside or get whatever help you need to make sure your child develops in as healthy and her emotional and social health development benefits from having a mother. And anybody who doesn't see that has got a problem and needs help. So, and that's still, I hope he'll get help. I hope he'll be forced to get help. So when I go to court on January 21st, she never did hear my motions. When I went in June, I went the day after the order of protection hearing, where I was ordered to have no contact. So we go on my motions that I was trying to get him to stop interfering in my relationship and to clarify the parenting schedule, and for the judge to hold him in contempt. His lawyer jumps in and says, well, she's stalking him, and she's got a no contact order from a year. And then the Judge Calloway's like, oh wow. So she probably wondered what in the world did I do to justify that. I did nothing to justify that, but I didn't. That was just that hearing was basically when you set one. So she told me she'd hear it August 28th, which was the last day of her custody trial. She did not hear it then. So, but she said she'll hear it on the 21st of January. So, I hope it makes a difference when she gets all the facts, but she should already know what's going on in this, in our custody, thing. But it was really bad. The guardian ad litem did not check on Dilara either. And so during 2.5 months of summer when I did not get to see Dilara at all, but, and I did find out, she told her therapist in July, she said, most of all, this is what was written down in quotes, most of all, I want my mom to win in court, but right now my dad's winning. So she said that in July. And of course that wasn't evidence, but I told everybody that's what she said. I don't know if I told the judge, but I told the guardian ad litem and Casa. Casa never went to talk to her. Nobody talked to her teacher. Dilara's dad says, his lawyer says, oh, she's flourishing in school. But when I have a parent-teacher conference with her teacher, especially that first month, which is when they said, oh, she's flourishing, the teacher says, no, she had a lot of problems. She was having a lot, very disruptive, very upset, very emotional. And so this lawyer lied to the judge, and Dilara's dad lied to the Casa, and Casa didn't do her job. The guardian ad litem didn't do their job. And so we're just waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my court date, January 21st, and I'm trying to get a petition written up for Judge Robinson to vacate this order of protection because it was fraudulently. They perpetrated a fraud on the court, and they need to hold him in contempt for that. It was really bad what they did, and these games they play. It's not good. And what else? I'm so tired. I'm appealing the custody because the custody decision, I went from being primary parent for 5.5 years to more than 6 years, to 4 hours a week of therapeutic visitation, which I can't even exercise that because of the order of protection. So, and I don't know why. There's no abuse, there's no neglect. So why is there therapeutic visitation? And it's just so messed up. So I'm hopefully gonna persuade the judge to the custody judge at some point. Hopefully she'll fix things. But she should have just. I don't know if she could have or not, but she could have. It would have been better to have gotten the facts. She didn't even give me an opportunity to tell her what happened May 31st and how it happened to be that he got this no contact order against me for a year, no contact with Dilara for a year, and I did ask her. I said he's got custody. He told Judge Robinson, does he have custody? No. She said, no, we were determining who, you have joint custody, which is what I said. And she said, we were determining who was going to be primary parent, which I had been primary parent. So, so I told her that. I told her that they lied to Judge Robinson. So, so she knew that. I just don't know. I don't know, but people should be upset. They really should. They should not want judges making decisions about their children's lives. Oh, and I watched Judge Sheila Calloway. There's on YouTube. There's it was like an interview, and she's talking about, how important, families are, and how she treats other children the way she would want her children to be treated, and that's such a lot of bull. It's just like a politician. They just say anything till they get in office, and then they do whatever they want, unless they think, well, and she's in for 8 years. So we need to figure out how to get judges off the bench when they're making these kind of decisions that just undermine family integrity and the stability of the families. And because you mess up the kids' childhoods and relationships, and then it makes them have relationship problems, and it's just sick. And I am most of those more recent charges of contempt were for me saying I am disobeying those orders, because the orders telling me not to protest what's been done to me and not to complain about what Dilara's dad's doing to me, they don't have the right. That is not a just or lawful order, and I don't recognize her authority to make that. And if I don't think people should follow orders that hurt people, and her orders definitely have been hurting me, and I don't, like I said, what are they going to do to me? They take my rights away from me. I don't, it's this shouldn't happen in America. Every time somebody knocks on my door, if I get a piece of mail I'm like, it's just almost like I get a panic attack. It's because, what is it now? Why can't people just leave me alone? And why can't they leave my child alone? She was doing so well, and she was so happy. She's so happy, and there are some good judges, and there are some good lawyers, and some people really do care about kids and try to help. But I guess I've run into the bad ones. But I'm kind of glad that I did, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have made connections with all these other people who have been so badly mistreated by the system, and whose children have suffered, and I wouldn't have known, and now I know, and now I'm gonna try to help them, and I hope everybody will see what's going on, and will work to change things, because the people, the public they're the only people who can change it, and a lot of people say that it's the people with money that run the country, but I think the votes are more important than the money, unless you can buy the votes. I guess they do that too, but I just want everybody to know that children are taken away from parents, and out of very wonderful, nurturing, stable environments every day, all over the world, and it's done legally, and it can't go on. It just can't. So you got to learn about it, and then you got to try to figure out how to fix it, and that's a big job, but I think we can do it.